Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. I'll shut it if you don't. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadhari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jai Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajakacharya Ashota Rasata Shishimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayam Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajikacharya Ashottara Sata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Bhagavan Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Let's see if I can get these. The Spring Rasayatra Dance of Lord Krishna Srimati Radharani Ki. Balaram's Rasi Yatra Ki. Shyamananda Prabhu Ki. Vamsi Das Thakur Ki. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhadale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desitarne. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Activities of the Prachetas, Text 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Griheshu Avishatam Chapi. Griheshvavishatam Chapi. Pumsam. You need a drink of water, Prabhu? Do you want some water? Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Mad Varta Yata Yamanam. Mad Varta Yata Yamanam. Na Bandaya Griha Mataha. Na Bandaya Griha Mataha. Did you say a fruit fly? Hare Krishna. Yeah. Looking for that fruit of love of God in that heart. I know it's in there. Grihesha Vishatam Chapi. Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Madvartayata Yamanam. Manbandaya Grihamataha. Griheshvas Vishatam Chapi. Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Madvartayata Yamanam. Nabandaya Grihamataha. Griheshva Vishatam Chapi. Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Madvartayata Yamanam. Nabandaya Grihamataha. Griheshva Vishitam Chapi. Pumsam Kushala Karmanam. Madvarta yata yamanam Nambandaya grihamataha Griheshva vishitam chapi Pumsam kushalakarmanam Madvarta yata yamanam Nabandaya grihamataha. Please. Griheshva vishitam chapi Pumsam kushalakarmanam Madvarta yata yamanam Nabandaya grihamataha. Griheshu, in family life, avishatam, who have entered, cha, also, api, even, pumsam, of persons, kushalam karmanam, engaged in auspicious activities, matvarta, in topics about me. Yata is expended. Actually, is expended. Yamanam, whose every moment. Na, not. Bandaya, for bondage. Griha, household life. Mataha, considered. Translation. Those who are engaged in auspicious activities in devotional service certainly understand that the ultimate enjoyer or beneficiary of all activities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, when one acts, he offers the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and passes life always engaged in the topics of the Lord. Even though such a person may be participating in family life, he's not affected by the results of his actions. A very wonderful purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ke. Generally, a person living in a family becomes overly attached to fruitive activity. In other words, he tries to enjoy the results of his activities. The devotee, however, knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme proprietor. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. What's that mean, Bhakti Glenn? And the supreme proprietor of everything. Consequently, the devotee does not consider himself the proprietor of any occupation. The devotee always thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the proprietor. Therefore, the results of his business are offered to the Supreme Lord. One who thus lives in the material world with his family and children never becomes affected by the contaminations of the material world. One who thus lives in the material world with his family and children never becomes affected by the contaminations of the material world. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Yagyartat karmanon yantra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. One who tries to enjoy the results of his activities becomes bound by the results. One who offers the results or profits to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, does not become entangled in the results. This is the secret of success. Generally, people take sannyas to become free from the reactions of fruitive activity. One who does not receive the results of his actions but offers them instead to the Supreme Personality of Godhead certainly remains in a liberated condition. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami confirms this. Iha yasya harer dashe karma na manasagira Nikalasapi avastasu jivam muktasu uchate. If one engages himself in the service of the Lord through his life, wealth, words, intelligence, and everything he possesses, he will always be liberated in any condition. Such a person is called a Jivan Mukta, one who's liberated during this lifetime. Devoid of Krishna consciousness, those who engage in material activities simply become more entangled in material bondage. They have to suffer and enjoy the actions and reactions of all activity. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore the greatest boon to humanity because it keeps one always engaged in Krishna's service. The devotees think of Krishna. What do the devotees do? They think of Krishna. They act for Krishna. They eat for Krishna, sleep for Krishna, and work for Krishna. Thus everything is engaged in the service of Krishna. A total life in Krishna consciousness saves one from material contamination. As stated by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Krishna bhajana yaha haya anukula vishaya baliya tyage taha haya bula. If one is so expert that he can engage everything or dovetail everything in the service of the Lord, to give up the material world would be a great blunder. One should learn how to dovetail everything in the service of the Lord, for everything is connected to Krishna. That is the real purpose of life and secret of success. What's the purpose of life and secret of success? Because everything is connected to Krishna. Bhakti Mike said, therefore we have to learn how to dovetail everything in the service of Krishna. This is the real purpose of life and the secret of success. As reiterated later in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita 3:19, Tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto yacharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. The 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita specifically considers material activities for the purpose of sense gratification and material activities for the purpose of satisfying the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that these are not one and the same. What's the title of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Start using the mic, please.
Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga. So, activities for sense gratification are activities for satisfying the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that these are not one and the same. Material activities for sense gratification are the cause of material bondage, whereas the very same activities for the satisfaction of Krishna are the cause of liberation. How the same activity can be the cause of bondage and liberation can be explained as follows. One may get indigestion due to eating too many milk preparations, condensed milk, sweet rice, and so on. But even though there is indigestion or diarrhea, another milk preparation, yogurt mixed with black pepper and salt, will immediately cure these maladies. In other words, one milk preparation can cause indigestion and diarrhea, and another milk preparation can cure them. If one is placed in material opulence due to the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he should not consider that opulence a cause for bondage. When a mature devotee is blessed with material opulence, he does not become affected adversely, for he knows how to employ material opulences in the service of the Lord. There are many such examples in the history of the world. There are kings like Prithu Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka, Dhruva, Vaivashvata Manu, and Maharaj Ishvaku. All of these were great kings and were especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If a devotee is not mature, Supreme Lord will take away all his opulences. This principle is stated by the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yashaham anugrinami harishe taddanam shanai. My first mercy shown to my devotee is to take away all his material opulence. End quote. Material opulence, detrimental to devotional service, is taken away by the Supreme Lord, whereas a person who is mature in devotional service is given all material facilities. Now, did I call it? Was that a wonderful purport? Could we pray together? Maybe we can milk a little bit more nectar out of this with your blessings. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Patakamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jigatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Tapas Prabhu, are you there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
How many people are online right now?
We have 17 people watching right now.
How many?
17.
Thank you very much, Prabhus, because it's pretty lean here in the temple, so I take consolation that somebody is hoping that this fool can say something on Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your prayers. So generally, most of the people in this world, they get married. You look down the street, practically speaking, there's always a guy and a girl walking together. Married, unmarried, whatever. And they're trying to enjoy like anything. Of course, they become attached. The prime word is tries to enjoy. Nobody's enjoying. It's impossible because it is not how or why we were made. We are the eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, we are His eternal servant. One who realizes that aspires for Krishna's mercy at every moment. If you look up the word aspires, it means it is my ambition. You are yearning, and the pure devotees are yearning, aspiring for Krishna's mercy at every moment. This is why Srila Prabhupada more than once in the purport, certainly in the verse, it says, thus when one acts in service to Krishna, in devotional service, he offers the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and passes life always engaged in the topics of the Lord. And Prabhupada, when he said, what is the life of a devotee? What's the first thing he said he does in relationship to Krishna? Microphone.
Dovetails everything in relation to Krishna.
Actually, the first thing he said was the devotees think of Krishna. Krishna consciousness means being conscious of Krishna. That's something we should very much aspire for. When one is gaining momentum in increased hearing, chanting, and remembering, then automatically you act for Krishna. You're thinking of Him. It's like people going to Trader Joe's and they buy the flowers. Who are they? They're buying it for somebody they're thinking about. They're not thinking about Krishna generally, offering it to Guru, Vaishnavas, and Krishna. They're thinking about a loved one. Their heart is filled with thoughts of somebody they want to enjoy with. And so they make some effort to try and please, to serve. So it's natural. Krishna consciousness is the most natural thing for the living entity. As I said, that's how we're made to serve Krishna. Why? Because Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshram. He's the supreme enjoyer in every way, shape, form, circumstance, etc. Well, why does He get that? Because He made everything. Everything is His. It's only proper that He be the enjoyer. Anyone attempting to enjoy that which is not yours is called a thief. Are thieves ever peaceful? No. They're always in anxiety. And if you wonder why you're always in anxiety, it's because you're not the controller or the enjoyer. Krishna is. But the secret of success, the perfection of life, is given in every verse of the Bhagavatam, certainly in this purport. Become Krishna's devotee. Doesn't matter what ashram you're in. Doesn't matter if you're in a Malecha culture and you don't even realize what ashrams or varnas are. Whoever you are, whatever you do, try to add Krishna. Being, discussion of the prachetas, princes, brahmacharis at this time, princes who will soon enter into married life and become kings. Thank you for joining us. It talks about their duties. And it's stated it doesn't matter if they become married. It doesn't matter if they rule over the earth planet. It doesn't matter if they go to the heavenly planets. Why? Because they are absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and always engage everything that they are and have in Krishna's service. What is it? Grihe bhavanit. Let's see. Grihe bhavanite take, hagoranga bolidake, narotama mage tarasanga. That's from Sarvana Sri Gora Mahima. Goranga du. Grihe bhavanite take, hagoranga bolidake, narotama mage tara sanga. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur concludes this song by saying, Grihe bha vanite take ha goranga bolidake. It's not necessary that one become a mendicant or give up his family life and society. One can remain wherever he finds it suitable, whether as a householder, as a brahmachari, as a vanaprastha, or as a sannyasi. Vanaprasthas and sannyasis are supposed to live outside of the city. Vanite means forest. Formerly, those who were in spiritual consciousness used to live in the forest to become free of the turmoil of city life. But that's not possible now. This age, no one can go to the forest. That requires practice, and no one is practiced to that line. Therefore, generally, one is recommended to live with his friends, wife, and children. That doesn't matter. But he must take to the process of Krishna consciousness as introduced by Lord Chaitanya. It's not difficult. The real thing is that one has to accept the movement of Lord Chaitanya, chanting, dancing, and eating Krishna prasad. Even if one is in family life, there's no difficulty. He can just sit down. Chant Hare Krishna. Dance nicely and then take Krishna prasad. Everyone can do this. Those who renounce this world, sannyasis, can also do it. There's no difficulty. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says that it doesn't matter whether one is a brahmachari, grihastha, or sannyasi. He says, if you've taken to these principles of life, I desire your company because you're a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. In this way, Narottam Das Thakur finishes the song. So these activities that Srila Prabhupada has given us in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, they're no cheap thing. They aren't superficial. They aren't artificial. They're actually activities of the soul manifest on this plane so that we become purified. To realize our spiritual identity, our nature of service to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada one time said this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to enable us to enter into the dance of Lord Krishna. Nothing more rare. Today is the anniversary of the springtime Rasa Yatra, Leela, of Radha and Krishna and the gopis. First Maharasa Leela, everyone participated. That was in Kartik, the Purnim of that month, Sharat season. But springtime came around and the desire welled up again. Went to the forest grove, played his flute, called the gopis. The Krishna consciousness movement is given by Lord Chaitanya of chanting, dancing, and taking prasadam, serving the Lord, is meant to qualify us that if we want, we can enter into such service. Inconceivable. This kirtan is everything. The holy names of Krishna is the foundation. It is the Yuga Dharma. It is Goloka Prema Dhan, Harinama Sankirtan. It's the activities of Radha and Krishna and the gopis, the Vrajvasis in Vrindavan Dham, Goloka Vrindavan. It's everything. And yet we find devotees, how much time do they spend in kirtan? How eager are they to participate in the kirtan? Or it's the mind gives them this excuse, this service, better engagement, doing that. What better engagement? When this purport says, always think of Krishna, manmana bhava mad bhakto. Always think of him. That's the goal. How are you going to do it with any other activities? Now, in the beginning, we can't always chant Hare Krishna. That's why Prabhupada said 64 rounds, 32 rounds. All right, 16 minimum. You must chant this if you're serious about going back home, back to Godhead in the end of this very life. By Guru's grace, the impossible is easily achieved. Guru and Krishna's grace. Guru and Gauranga's grace. And so we engage in the activities of an apprentice. Like Thakur Bhaktivinoda, he was a householder. One time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur disparagingly addressed him as like a Griyamatey. And I don't want to be quoted exactly as calling him a Griyamatey. But his first wife passed away and he remarried. And that second wife he remarried was the Bhagavati Devi, the mother of Bhaktisiddhanta. And he thought, what is this? Hare Krishna. But that householder, he prayed, Manasa Deho Geho Jo Kichu More Arpitu Arpilutu apade Nanda Kishore. Mind, body, family, whatever may be, I've surrendered at your lotus feet, O youthful son of Nanda. That's why other Paramahamsas were attracted to his association. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, just to name a couple. Bees go for the honey. Devotees go where the nectar is. They go where the love is being expressed through the glorification of Krishna's names, activities, forms, qualities, etc. And that's what Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness for. That's what our main business is. Not simply to read the books, not simply to distribute the books, not simply to have our own little kirtans, but we're meant to be infected with the enthusiasm of that nectar, that taste, so that we want to share it with as many others as possible. We got it. Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who is chanting Hare Krishna, their name is written in the book of Krishna for going back home, back to Godhead. We got it. If we don't throw it away, our position is very, very optimistic. The future is very bright. But we want to make others' futures bright. We were no different than these two-legged animals a few decades ago or a few years ago. No different at all. Gliding to hell. Miserable. And yet, the Vaishnavas and Srila Prabhupada picked us up. Lord Chaitanya descended to deliver the offensive, the fallen. Inconceivable. Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, comes to give us this priceless gem in what apparently is the most degraded of ages. Generally, no question. But because of this one good quality amongst the ocean of faults, this is the most glorious age. They're not getting Krishna praying in Satya Yuga. They're not begging out, calling the names of Krishna. It's way too easy. How could that be perfection? They'll spend tens of thousands of years meditating, breathing, performing their yoga. Next stage, great sacrifices. The gift we're being offered is not received by such devotees. They're not. Even Dwapara Yuga, Krishna took home the Vrajbasis. He liberated demons he killed, etc. But in this age, worldwide, the opportunity is being given. The simple process, but we have to take it seriously, as our Prabhu says time and time again. From our side, follow the contract and the implication, the purport of chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulated principles is that within your heart you realize without the grace and shelter of Guru and Vaishnavas, impossible. I've been rotting in this material world since time immemorial, and to break the conditioning, the habits, very, very challenging. But by the grace of Krishna, Mameva ye prapajante tam sataiva bhajamyaham, the impossible becomes easy. Remembering Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the most difficult becomes easy. The impossible becomes right in the palm of your hand, right within your grasp. There was this question when Balaram last gave class. Well, hold on a minute here. How come some people get the mercy, some devotees, and others don't? What's going on here? It doesn't look like Krishna's equal. Is he equal or not? Samaham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maiteteshu chapyaham. Krishna says, I envy no one, nor am I partial in anyone. I'm equal to all. Krishna's saying it right there. That equality means I love all of you equally. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also in him. So sometimes we think, oh, that person's getting the mercy. Well, the people who are getting the mercy, it comes in all types of shapes, sizes, and experiences. And it's not an easy walk in the park. Srila Prabhupada has said, an easygoing life and advancement in Krishna consciousness do not go well together. So sometimes there's the fear to surrender conscientiously within the heart, begging to take away that which is not favorable for my surrender. Taking away that which I am clinging onto because of so much conditioning, thinking that it will make me happy when it has only kept me in the material world suffering. As Jayadvaita Swami was quoted in a class not too long ago by the policeman in New York City, hey, what do you got to give up in your religion? He said, you're suffering. That's all Krishna wants to take away. But like the example of the camel chewing the thorns, thinking the taste of the blood is so sweet. But the price of a drop of happiness in the material world is a bucket of misery. It's only a temporary cessation at best of the sufferings of the body and mind. It's actually just a temporary forgetfulness because the miseries go unabated. It's the nature of being in a material body, in a material mind. From the highest planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest, all are places of misery. That's for those who are clinging on, tight as they can, making their best endeavor, undergoing all the austerities and going, fighting, trying their best to fight through the obstacles, to enjoy sense gratification, to control and enjoy. The material world is a miserable hellhole. But for the Prachetas, for the Mahajans like Prithu Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, etc., life is Vaikuntha. The material world is a blissful place because they're always thinking of Krishna. Where is there that Krishna is not? There is no such place. That is called Maya. Krishna's everywhere. And thus it behooves one to take shelter of a devotee who knows how to recognize that, to be realized in that, and thus engage everything in the service of the Lord. As Rupa Goswami says, Anasaktasya visayan yatarham upayunjitaha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate prapanchak Katiyabudya hari sambandhi vastunaha mamukshubi parityago vairagyam bhagu katayete. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 255 and 56. Or as Bhakti Siddhanta is quoting, if one is so expert he can engage everything in Krishna's service, why would he give up anything? Be a huge mistake, great blunder. But see, Krishna knows the heart of his devotees. He knows it better than we do. He recognizes when we want to surrender to him, but he also sees if we have some desire to drink the pots of poison, fruity desires, mental speculation, liberation, etc. Anything outside of unalloyed selfless service to Krishna. And it's not that Krishna can't or won't fulfill such desires. You want to taste the poison? All right, I'll give you a small taste. But once you do, you'll realize, what was I thinking? It was simply a cause of misery. That's how Krishna fulfills desires. Lovingly. He's not overly concerned. Chatura, I hear it all the time. Krishna doesn't promise to protect the body. We're not the body. We aren't supposed to be absorbed and overly absorbed in protecting this body, cushioning the body. The body's destined for a certain amount of misery. Certainly in the fourfold primary sufferings of birth, death, disease, and old age, guaranteed the body's meant for it. His protection is of our bhakti, fanning the desire to become a real devotee, to utilize this body and all that it, I, me, mine, everything in Krishna's service. That's mercy. And if Krishna's got to take the old power, what do you call it? No, I'm talking sander, and take off the shellac of the attachments we have within our heart, so that the low nature, the bad qualities, the influence of the lower modes can be dissipated, so that the qualities of us, the soul, can be manifest. If he has to do that, he has no problem. If it stings, he has no problem with that, because he knows what the result is. Sometimes you take a medicine, eye drops every time, Like in Ayurveda, when you're having your eyesight's kind of failing, put honey in your eye. Lie back. You can put a little bit of bread dough, chapati dough around it so it won't spill out. Open your eye and put honey in your eyes. It's going to sting like a booger, but I guarantee after you've had honey in your eyes for some time, and then you wash it out, it is amazing, the result. And that's what Krishna consciousness is in the preparatory stage of sadhana bhakti. It seems hard. It seems like a challenge. It seems painful even sometimes. But stick to it, because the sun will rise and all that misconception and illusion and attachment will be dissipated. Recognizing who we are and our relationship with Krishna. It's there if we want it. And so when we ask, why do they get more mercy than I do? Know what you're asking for. Because anything worth achieving above the mediocre standard of neophyte devotees, what to speak of non-devotees, anything above and beyond the norm and worth achieving, chasing the rhino, is going to be worth the price. There will be great endeavor, austerity, and determination involved. So when we ask for the mercy, we have to know that it's not always pleasant, but for those who are sticking to the process in full confidence, in full faith, then they know whatever little difficulty I encounter, it will only get better and better, receiving more and more the grace of Krishna, surrendering more and more and more. And the example of the Vrajvasis is spotless. It is the highest mode of worship of the Lord, the example to be followed. Did I have it? Hare Krishna. I was going to quote Lord Chaitanya if I had it. Let's see if I got it. What is it? Ramya kachit upasana vrajavadu vragena va kalipata. The most pleasing form of worship for the Lord is that which was performed by the gopis of Vrindavan, or those following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. Vamsidas, he's the flute incarnation of Krishna who descended to serve Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Leela. It's his appearance day today. He served Vishnu Priya. He served Mother Sachi. They were so absorbed in thought of Krishna, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after he took sannyas, that after some time they thought this life is not worth maintaining in separation, in absence of service to the Lord. And they both decided to fast till death. No eating, no drinking. The only devotee that I know that did that, Mother Vrajavadu. She called me and she said, you know, I'm in the hospice. I'm wanting to leave this world, give up this body, but it's not happening. I said, well, what are you doing? What are you eating, drinking? What are you doing? She said, well, every once in a while I'll have some coconut milk or I'll drink some water. I said, Vrajavadu, if you really want to give up the body, stop drinking. And she took a vow. She wouldn't let Laudley put the water in her mouth anymore. Small price to pay for one whose desire is all-consuming. I want to be reunited with my spiritual master in the company of the Lord and his associates. So Vamsidas and Vishnu Priya Devi, they took up that vow. And after some time, Lord Chaitanya appeared to him and said, what are you doing? Don't do this. Because they had many years ahead of them. He said, I want you to worship my deity form. And thus Dameshwar appeared, and the service of Lord Chaitanya was taken up by the pair. It said that under the base, the lotus flower that Dameshwar's lotus feet are on is the name of, I don't want to butcher the long name, but Vamsidas Thakur. After they both passed away, he had one son that took on the worship, but then after he got old, then his brother took it up because the first son was celibate and the second son had family members, and thus to this day in Navadvip, those relatives carry on the worship. That's the highest mode of worship. These devotees who come from Vrindavan or follow the example of those who are in Vrindavan. Shaimananda Prabhu, same thing. Disciple of Hridai Chaitanya, disciple of Gauridas Pandit. The deities actually left Gauridas Pandit's home, their altar, their temple, and went to where the glorification was being engaged in with Hridai Chaitanya and so many other Gaura Bhaktas. They left and they entered into the kirtan, chanting and dancing. Can you imagine the ecstasy of Hridai Chaitanya? And then Gaurnitai, they saw Gauridas Pandit coming. He had just arrived from out of town and he hadn't been asked permission by his disciple Hridai Chaitanya to celebrate the Gaur Purnima festival. And his nature came out. He was angry. What kind of upstart are you? You do something independently? What, you're better than Guru now? You're Guru now? And he came to chastise his disciple. And he knew that his worshipful lords, Gaurnitai, intimate friendship relationship with their lordships, he knew they'd be there, those rascals. And when he came, and the deities, and Gauranga and Nityananda saw him, they knew they were in big trouble. They immediately jumped into the heart of Hridai Chaitanya. That's how he got his name, Hridai. Gauranga is in the heart. Nitai is in the heart. Shaimananda became an initiated disciple of him. He took shelter of him. He was taught by him. And when Hridai Chaitanya thought it best, he said, I'd like to send you to Vrindavan to take shelter of Jiva Goswami. and expand your understanding, your study of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya through the writings of the Goswamis. And he did that. He went to Vrindavan. He became intimate friends with Srinivasacharya and Shaimananda and Narottam Das Thakur. He asked his Siksha Guru Jiva Goswami for a special service, and he gave it to him. Sweep the grove of Sevakunj every day. And he would take the brooms. In India, they're long straw sticks, basically, bound up, bundled up at the end. And he would sweep the kunj, Sevakunj, a Rasa Leela stan every day, increasingly relishing the service out of gratitude, begging for the mercy of Radha and Krishna, for the service of Radha and Krishna. He would take that broom and he would rub it on his head, and he would roll in the dust in gratitude and spiritual emotions, knowing that Radha and Krishna's dust from their lotus feet and all the intimate gopis, it's all here. Perfection of life, the Vrajaraj. To get one particle is enough to give one Krishna prem. And so, chanting, doing the service every day. Then he got the mercy. He found a bright bangle. We know the story. It was Srimati Radharani's anklet. And she had lost it in the dance. It must have come off. And she sent Lalita, I think I'm saying it properly, Lalita or Vishaka. I think in Satyaraj's book he says it's said both ways, but her most intimate Sakhi he sent to find, and she saw Shyamananda, and she said, "Have you found a bracelet?" He said, "Yes." "Is it yours?" "No, it's my mistress." "Please give it to me." He said, "No, I'll give it to the owner." "No, you should give it." "No, I'm not giving it to anyone but the owner. Please have her come. I will gladly give it to her." Because he knew something was special. Because this bracelet had an effulgence that was otherworldly. And so Srimati Radharani came and stayed at a far distance. And her Sakhi came and said, "Here's my mistress. She's come to get her bracelet." And this, of course, is condensing a nice, long story, but Shyamananda, seeing Srimati Radharani, even in the distance, what to speak of having had darshan of her intimate Sakhi, Prana Sakti, he was so overwhelmed. The love within his heart was overflowing, rolling in the dust, saying prayers again and again. And Srimati Radharani was so pleased that she came and said, "I'm going to bless you with the name of Shyamananda." And she took the bracelet, put it on his forehead, and gave him a new tilak design. So anyway, what mercy is there for those who follow the example of the Vrajvasis, who aspire for the service of the Vrajvasis, servants of the servants of the servant of Krishna. This is what our Krishna consciousness movement is for. Everything else, it all has its place. It's all engagement for us conditioned souls and aspiring devotees. If it weren't for the preaching, Prabhupada said we could sit under a tree and chant Hare Krishna and life would be perfect. But to help others, he engages us in all these activities. But don't get lost in all the maze and complex activities of this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The aim is to always think of Krishna. If we can achieve that, everything else will be done perfectly. Then, when one has achieved that, there's no need to take away opulences, health, anything. If it is conducive for your spreading Krishna consciousness, for your service to the Lord will give it to you in spades, more than you can imagine. So are there any questions or comments?
In Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, he would give different honorific titles to his disciples, different disciples. But one thing that they would, because we were discussing this other day, you were talking about brahmachari and sannyas. You mentioned this a little bit in your class. They would, for their vanaprasthas, he would call them. He wouldn't say vanachari, because that's, we're discussing that, but he would call them so and so Krishnadas Vrajvasi.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he would say
Wow.
so and so Vrajvasi, so and so Vrajvasi.
vanaprasthas.
All vanaprasthas were Vrajvasi, which, Vrindavan, Vraj, and then Vasi, resident of. So that's how he would title them.
That's got a great ring to it.
So, anyways, that's there.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't remember reading that.
Yeah, so it'd be like Rajendranandana Prabhu Vrajvasi. So, yeah, also, you mentioned something about test. You mentioned this idea of test. I think you brought that up, right?
Yes.
So sometimes you hear this, which I don't exactly know where it's from. Like I've heard devotees say that a few things in relations to test. Like one thing they say that, okay, well, Krishna, he won't give you a test you can't pass.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that, which I'm not exactly sure where that's. But so then the question is, well, sometimes it seems that, well, they're given a test, but it doesn't exactly seem like they pass. But so how exactly that work? Krishna will give you a test that he won't give you a test that you can't pass. But then there's an idea I've heard also about tests is that, well, once he'll give you the same test repeatedly until you pass it.
Okay.
Now, what does exactly that mean? How many times do you have to pass that test? You pass it once, and what does it mean to pass it? And because you could get a test.
I want my frame and I want it now.
You could get a test. So maybe you could comment on those.
Yeah, 2 questions. Really, really good questions. First of all, what? It's Krishna's fault that we don't pass a test? Yeah, that sounds like something that old mind, false ego. We've already discussed how I wish it was a person that would sit next to me and I would kick the stuffing out of it. Of course we can pass any test given to us by Krishna. We just have to beg, realizing we can't do it. I can't do this. It's only by your mercy, Guru, Vaishnavas, and Krishna. Only. But that's the point. Krishna brings the Vrajvasis to their knees. For heaven's sakes, if you listened carefully last night, what wonderful katha. I'm so glad he read last night on Balaram's visit to Vraj. Because in and of itself, that pastime, we could have spoken easily this amount of time on that. But the Vrajvasis, they said, we're not like ordinary lovers, the gopis talking to Balaram. If a beloved leaves their lovers, they die. Krishna's left us and we're not dying. And we're certainly not living. And the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, they gave up basically any concern for dressing, their appearance, for eating and sleeping. They were simply walking around in a Krishna daze, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, crying continually. And I'm going to give one little short, don't let me go too far abreast, but this is so relevant. I have some understanding of this. Gopakumar, when he reaches, was it Goloka or Gokula? And he wasn't quite sure, are they miserable Are they ecstatic? He had reached Goloka. And there was this dual, simultaneous perception. And it was like when Srila Prabhupada, the last few hours he was with us, and we were chanting by his bedside, chanting at his feet. It's the most ecstatic, love-filled kirtan I've ever been in. And yet, when I heard a recording some years later of it, it was the most piteous, wailing of a kirtan I'd ever heard. But you didn't perceive it in the kirtan. You were just crying. Your heart was fully open, fully being offered to the lotus feet of your spiritual master. And that's what Krishna consciousness is. So according to the perception of the devotee, it may look like devotees undergoing challenges or disease or suffering. Are suffering? They're not suffering. They're just absorbed. As Prabhupada said when somebody said, "Oh, you look so unhappy in this picture, Srila Prabhupada." The one I'm thinking of is the bird house behind Prabhupada in the courtyard of the 22nd 6th Avenue. Did I get it right? 26th Avenue? Going back to his apartment. He's got this most sober. In fact, I won't mention the person. There's somebody in my extended family, and they've seen that kind of picture of Prabhupada. Oh, this person is very unhappy. They labeled Prabhupada as somebody who couldn't enjoy this world, didn't understand what happiness of this world was. And Prabhupada told the devotee who made that comment, "You do not know what ecstasy is." So, of course, Krishna gives us the ability to pass the test, but do we want to pass it? Do we actually get down internally on our knees and beg? How long are you willing to beg? How loud are you willing to call out your Guru's name, the names of Krishna? Help me. Prabhupada, evidently for a very long extended time, did the same service Shyamananda Prabhu did for Rupa Goswami, sweeping and begging for the ability to pass the impossible test and service his spiritual master had given him. Of course the ability is given. It's just up to us. When the going gets rough, the rough get going. And the second part of the question is, how many times do we have to pass the test? Until the test is really passed, when the quality is manifested that is being obstructed or covered by our attachment to something that needs to be driven home. Give it up. For me, I'm very impatient. I'm such an impatient person. And Chaturya gets the brunt of it more than anybody, more you can imagine. It's quite, It's like, but a subordinate, if they want to get the benefit of the good qualities, then what's their test? They have to tolerate that impatience. That's their test. But it's not my business to say, this is what you have to do. My business is my fault. Balaram, when he saw the mood of the gopis, they smiled when they began asking questions. They had anything but smiles in their heart. He gave them the attention they needed, and a superior is supposed to do that. That's a test. Hopefully, someday I'll pass it. But until then, I just keep being reminded. I've got such a long way to go. And that's advantageous for advancing in Krishna consciousness, because when you start thinking, I'm pretty advanced, that's when the kick's going to come, right in the gut. Shivananda mercifully got it from Lord Nityananda. And these sufferings sent, these trials, they may be through the agency of material energy, but Krishna is directly in control. That's his love and his affection, his favoritism toward those who are even simply dear to his real devotees, and that's us. We're trying to serve Srila Prabhupada. So does that give you some? Are you satisfied with that? Does anybody else have any addition? Breakfast is ready, Alex?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Bhakti Tapas.
Prabhu, I have some nice comments and questions in YouTube chat.
Okay, can I allow the Prabhus to leave since their breakfast is waiting, and I will happily answer? Let me just say,
Sure.
Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Yes, Tapas Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhus.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice class. So the comment I have from Mukunda Madhav Prabhu
Who?
and Mukunda Madhav,
No, Mukunda, Hare Krishna.
and he also has questions. So the comment is that the point is made in the purport that a devotee should not consider material opulence granted by the Lord to be a cause of bondage. If the devotee knows how to properly use it for the Lord's pleasure.
Yes.
Now he has a question also. How does one understand the point in relation to great devotees?
In
Who
relationship to
renounce-
what kind of devotee?
Great devotees.
Great devotees, okay.
Who renounce the material opulence which has been granted to them, as if such opulence is indeed an obstacle, such as the 6 Goswamis.
Ah. What a nice question, Mukunda. Thank you very much. We're missing you and are happy that you've given us your association in this way. The Lord Chaitanya likes to show all the different aspects of the qualities of his devotees. Some he'll show the ideal of renunciation, as with the Goswamis. With some like Maharaj Pataparudra, he was the king of Orissa. He was ready to give up his kingdom in a moment if he was not going to be allowed to have the darshan and the association and service of Lord Chaitanya. So his opulence was not an impediment. He had given the instruction that all opulence, all facility, he told the manager in the Puri temple, you give Gauranga and his devotees anything and everything they request. It was simply, his kingdom was simply meant for the service of Krishna. So in his different devotees, he gives different examples of the different qualities, and they're all glorified accordingly. But the essence of each and every one of them is their complete attachment to, their love for the Lord. And whatever they have, whether it's just that little pouch to carry their deity in around their neck, and the little chapati dough that some Damvasis have given them to make into rotis over the fire they make, it's all for the pleasure of the Lord. They have no attachment whatsoever for anything except in relationship to service to the Lord. That was the verse we quoted from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Does that give some clarification, Mukunda?
He's not on the Zoom. He's on the YouTube actually.
Okay,
I think
well, he can
he's
type.
hearing
Is there
you.
any other question?
There's no other questions, but I have 2 nice comments. So one is from our Bhakta Bob.
Bhakta
He
Bob,
said-
Hare Krishna.
He said, Prabhu, thank you for your delivery. I am out here in Arizona trying to share this philosophy and this knowledge. And you present it so practically that I can repeat your words and share this gift.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Bhakta Bob. Thank you.
And I have one more comment from.
How about a question first? Unless it's a criticism. You have another question?
No, that's the comment.
Okay.
It's from Prachi Srinath. He said, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada's visit to Tirupati was memorable.
What did he say, brother?
Srila Prabhupada's visit to Tirupati.
His Prabhu's? And what's the name of the Prabhu? Did you say?
Prachi Srinath.
Okay, his visit to Tirupati was memorable.
Yeah,
Srila Prabhupada's visit to Tirupati was memorable.
yeah,
That's the comment?
yeah, that's the comment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime the pure devotee comes in the presence of the Lord, it's memorable for the Lord and the pure devotee. A very happy reunion.
And I also have a comment from Mukunda Prabhu. He
Who?
heard your answer, Mukunda Prabhu.
Mukunda, okay.
He said, "Yeah, thank you."
Hare Krishna. You're very welcome, Mukunda Prabhu. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki